So I'm Tanner Lindsley. That's my name that I use everywhere. So if you want to find me, that's how you find me. That's my email, my GitHub, Twitter, everything. I'm on Utah.js Slack 24/7. I'm also on React Tools Slack chat. So React Tools is an organization I started with a couple of other guys where we just put all of our cool open source projects for React in the same organization and try and help each other out and help the community out.
Is that a place people can ask questions on React Tools?
Yeah, React Tools, like if you have a question about any of the repos on React Tools, you can go there and ask questions and get help. Like, it's not like a general chat area, but it is about the tools. So it's a great place to get support and talk about that kind of stuff.
Is there React Tools?
It's GitHub/React-Tools if you want to check it out. But tonight I'm talking more from the persona of Nozzle. Nozzle is my company. I own it with two other individuals, and we focus on SEO analytics. So I build a lot of tools around that. And this is more of a Nozzle thing instead of a React Tools thing, but you know they're still very related. So tonight I'm talking about static sites in React. Who has at least written some React? Mostly. Anybody who hasn't? Okay. Do you know what a static site is?
No.
Great. Anybody in React know what a static site is? Does anybody not know what a static site is? Okay. A little bit of education. This is a static site. It is old school. This is what you learned in high school. It's like HTML, right? Here's my index page. You're going to link to about. Static sites are super, they feel really old school, and they have just been starting to come back recently for a couple of reasons. First off, it's pretty hard to host anything these days without a server. If you have an app, if you have a backend service, an API, anything like that, usually you're going to end up needing a server. But with static sites, you're not going to need a server that's running all the time. All you're going to need is a static site server. You just need somewhere to put your files on the internet, right? You could host a static site off your computer. It's that easy to do. But static sites are really fast because instead of downloading a bunch of stuff from like WordPress runs on PHP, right? Lots of websites out there run on Express. That's a Node, right? You request something and it has to do a bunch of work on the server, and then it brings you back the response. But with static sites, that's not the case. You request the page, it's just a file, and it shows up on your screen really fast. And that makes it really cheap. And it's so cheap that, in fact, that there are hosts out there who will host your static sites for free to a certain extent, right? Obviously, if you're getting millions and millions of hits every day, they might not be happy with you. But I'll be talking about one of those tonight that I use that's really great. So this is what the static site world looks like in React right now. These are the top 3 contenders. And I put them on this chart of performance versus dev experience. And the lowest one is Next.js. And I don't know if you've heard of it, Next. Anybody heard of Next in here? It's technically not a static site generator by heart. It's called an isomorphic rendering system for React. So they render your code on the server in React, and then they send it to the client, and it speeds things up, right? And it just so happens that with that structure, they were able to tack on a little feature that supports building a static site. I've used Next before, and that's Next was pretty cool. It's pretty friendly to use. You can get up and going really quickly, building a website, right? But it starts to feel a little bit like WordPress, where you have templates and pages, right? And it's really difficult to get data to your React app. If you have a blog or you have some asynchronous data you're going to pull in from some API and give it to your marketing site or your blog or something like that, it's kind of difficult to do. The The next one up is Phenomic, and I actually don't know a whole lot about Phenomic. I tried it out for about 15 minutes, and it was very comparable to Next. It was a little bit faster, but I didn't feel like it was as friendly, and it could be that it's just not as mature as Next. Next.js has like 14,000 stars on GitHub. It's really popular. And then Gatsby, I don't know why they called it Gatsby, but Gatsby, they call themselves, we are the static site generator for React. And these guys are actually pretty good. They're crazy fast websites. ReactJS.org, who's been there before? Everybody's been there looking at documentation, learning about React. It's written in Gatsby. And I think that's a fairly recent change. If anybody knows segment.io also, their blog is written with Gatsby. So very large sites are written with Gatsby. And it's a force to be reckoned with, but it doesn't mean that it's perfect. And when I tried Gatsby, the performance was a huge selling point, but the dev experience was just not fun for a couple of reasons. One of them for me is they force you to know GraphQL, or at least it feels that way. Has anybody heard of GraphQL? Anybody not heard of GraphQL? Yeah. So GraphQL, it's cool, right? But it's overkill. You're building a blog. You're building a static site, a marketing site. You're building something simple. Why do you need GraphQL? And usually you're pulling your data in from a CMS or Contentful or something that's already organized to your data. Why the intermediary, layer of GraphQL? That was frustrating for me. And also Gatsby, it feels very WordPressy in spirit. Everything is a plugin. If you want to modify anything, you got to write your own little plugin, or you use somebody else's plugin. And this is both a pro and a con. Like there's lots of plugins out there for Gatsby already, so you can do some damage pretty quickly. But it's downfall for me because if I wanted to do anything, it had to be a plugin. It was just a weird environment to work. Like everybody here is probably used to just writing an app in Create React App, right? Create React App, so simple. Start a new project and just start going, and you do it however you want. And that's how I wanted React Static to feel. It didn't need to be as perfect as Gatsby in terms of, performance, but I wanted it to feel as native to writing React as possible. I wanted it to be fun writing a static site. So it's taken me about 2 months to build React Static, probably about a month of really good coding. And it all starts with the build system. So every single website starts with data, and you can get it from anywhere. And some websites don't even need data. If you have a marketing site that's just like basically a brochure site, here's my home page, here's the about page, here's the info page, and like that's it. Some sites are just like a single page. Like you probably don't even need data for some of the stuff, but you can bring it in from all of these different places. And one of those places that I bring it in is Contentful. Does anybody know what Contentful is? Has anybody used Contentful before? Jason, I know you have.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
He's not playing.
Contentful is like WordPress, but without a front end. That's all it is. It's a place to manage posts, information, like you can do products with it, but it doesn't have a front end. It's just an API that you can go get data from and do whatever you want with, right? So it's a perfect match. So for Nozzle, we keep all of our blog posts and all of our like text content in Contentful. And that way, like my marketing team can add new blog posts, they can write new content, they can change words on the page, and they don't have to know the front end, because that's my job, to build it how I want, right? So you take that data and you want to stick it into your app. And this is where a lot of those other libraries get difficult. They just add so much complexity to what should be a simple step, right? And with React Static, it's so simple. You just define routes. I'm going to show you guys how to do this. You define the routes of your web page, all the possible routes, and you tell those routes what data they need, and they just show up inside of your React app. Like they're just there. Without fail, it's magical. I'm going to show you guys. I'm really excited to do this. And then the hope is that that produces a bunch of HTML files for your static site. But the special thing that React Static is doing is this JSON part down here. Is for every single page you have, it's generating HTML and JSON. And I'm going to show you why.
This is for 16, React 16?
Yep, this is running React 16, and it's fast. It is so fast, and it's small too. So it uses React Router under the hood to help you do this. And I couldn't think of a better library to do it. React Router is pretty de facto right now, whether it's version 3 or version 4. I use version 4 for React Static. But you guys should definitely learn it if you haven't. But if not, it's not very difficult to learn. So assuming that the build process went well, you take these files and you push them up to your server, right? And I use Netlify. Has anyone heard of Netlify?
No.
Come on, Jason. Get that pizza out of your mouth.
You just made that up.
Netlify is awesome. It's going to change your life, okay? It's so simple. You can drag and drop a folder on your computer into Netlify, and you've got a website, like an endpoint. And then you can, like, in 5 minutes, you can turn it into a real website if you have the domain. Like, you can host stuff on there for free just to mess around with. They don't care. You can hook it up to GitHub, so every time you push to master, it will auto-build your website and ship files out to Netlify. It's so cool. So we run our blog off Netlify right now for free. We don't have a ton of traffic, right? But this is what's happening when you visit a React Static website. If you haven't been listening till now, this is the part to listen. Okay, so when you request a web page, let's say it's about, right? nozzle.io/about. You want to know about Nozzle, so that's what you type into the URL bar. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to hit the static server, and it's going to give you the HTML file for that page. Well, it's already been exported with all the data, so it looks, that HTML looks exactly how it needs to already. It's got all the styles. It has all of the markup, and it's just waiting. When it loads, it's instantaneously visible. Like, it loads so fast. I'm going to show you guys. You're not going to believe it, okay? And this is great because in like 50 milliseconds sometimes, you've already got visible content. You can already click on links, right, if you have to. Say JavaScript is dead. Nobody runs their website or their browser without JavaScript anymore, but say they were. Like, they can use it still because there's links on the page, right? And for SEO, like Google bots and Bing, they eat this up. That content's there and ready to go. Like, there's no pre-rendering or anything like that. It's there. They pluck it, they eat it up super fast. And that speed of your site goes into how you rank on Google. That's why this is important. This is the cool part, is after, okay, we've loaded about.html, right? We're 100 milliseconds in to this journey. The site's already loaded visibly, okay? But within the next 300 milliseconds tops around there, we load React onto that page, right? Invisibly. You don't even know it happens. You're looking at the HTML, and React just mounts on top of it, and you have no idea, and all of a sudden, you just have an app. You have Create React app, basically, at your fingertips. Okay, everything, you can write everything like you normally would. You could use Redux, animations, you could use Apollo. Like, I don't care what it is, you can use it. And from that point, there's some really cool stuff that starts happening. The next step is that if we wanted, we could start preloading the rest of the site, right? But we don't even need to do that. Say somebody goes and clicks, so we're on About, and we've got React running, right? And somebody wants to go to the home page. Or no, let's say the blog. They want to go to the blog.
This is 300 milliseconds later.
This is 300 milliseconds later, if they're even able to click on a link that fast, right?
Yeah.
Say they go to click on a link, okay? Normally with just a regular static site, it would just change pages, right? It's a new URL, so it goes to the next URL, which would be /blog. Whole page reload, loading all this crap again, right? Loading fonts again. Hopefully everything's cached and you've got things set up. No, it doesn't do that. It doesn't need to. React Router and React Static know where you want to go. They know the route that you're trying to get. And they know that there is a JSON file sitting there with all of the data that was used to build this HTML file. So they don't need the HTML file, they just need the JSON, which in some cases is just kilobytes of information. You can load it. It can be downloaded in literally 30 milliseconds. Did you have a question, Zach?
No.
Oh, okay. So, and this is any further page that you want to go to, literally takes tops 2 kilobytes, maybe 100 milliseconds to download, and you don't even notice it. It feels like you're using a regular React app, because in React, in a normal single page app for React, you click on a link and it's instant, right? It's the same way here. And this is great because guess what? If there's links on the page that go somewhere, you can just say preload all the links. And you can just go and download all the necessary data for the rest of your site in like 300 milliseconds. And then all of a sudden you have everything locally. This opens up some cool stuff. You could basically do a progressive web app and have the entire website downloaded to the user's device. So even when they don't have an internet connection, they can browse through your whole site instantly.
Well, there's a need for refresh data, though, so I'm not sure.
There is. We'll talk about that. Obviously, this is still spawning from a build event that's happening.
Stuff we know is not
Yep.
necessary.
And you know, if you have stuff in your app that isn't so important for SEO, but you want it to be live and fresh, you can still go get that. It's just a regular React app. So as soon as it mounts, you know, go query Instagram, go query Facebook, do, you know, if you need live data, that importantly, just go get it. It's okay, you know. So that's what the whole process looks like. And it's really not that complicated when you compare it to what's going on under the hood for other frameworks. Nozzle.io is using this right now, and you can open your browser up to this if you want to, but I'm going to open up Nozzle.io, and I'm going to do it incognito because I want to show you guys. Okay, and I would keep in mind too that at Nozzle we're not just loading, you know, normal stuff. We're loading Google Tag Manager. We're loading tracking pixels, marketing scripts. We're loading HubSpot forms. We're loading a ton of stuff onto this site. But I want you to look at the network panel. Let me disable the cache here. Okay, I'm going to hit reload. So the site was visible at 185 milliseconds. Like that frame right there. Like that's fully visible. Okay. And then, let's see, nothing really changes throughout the rest of the app. And then right down here, we can see that, oh, there were some links on the page that go to the rank tracker comparison, the features page, the pricing page, and the about page. So I prefetched those routes right there. And so when I go to the YS page, it's ready to go. It's instantaneous. There was no page load there. It's just like you're running a React app. You go to features, instantaneous, pricing. About has some pretty big pictures, so it might not look instantaneous, but it is. And even if we go to the unlisted dev blog, right? Instant. Technically, content loaded right there. So a little less than 400 milliseconds. But these posts are already loaded. In fact, if you look at this route.json stuff right here, there is, let's see, there's some for the dev blog right here. So this is all the data that was needed to build this tags page, this route, this jot tag page, right? And it just has one post, so it's not that big. But this is a lot smaller than loading the HTML every time. And it's a lot smaller than loading a JavaScript bundle every single page that you want to get. So as you're going around, it's instant. Want to read a post? Instant. So at this point, it's just a React app, right? So you just scored SEO big time, okay? You just scored way big with users because your site loaded instantaneously. Sometimes so fast that we got to think about putting route animations in here because you don't even know that something changed. You're like, oh, I click on authentication, and you're like, wait, did it just load, or am I still waiting for something? You know, and in the scenario that you load something too quick, there's a little loader bar up at the top, but it's instant. So a lot of times it doesn't even show up.
That's with beta now.
Right. So I mean, like it's so fast. You're like creating problems for yourself in other ways. Like I got to let my users know that something changed. Okay. Can't remember what I was saying before.
Just for the sake of testing, if you throttle your network speed up.
Yeah, let's try it out. I actually haven't tried it out yet, so.
Can you
I think
explain
that's a little
what
bigger.
you're asking to do and what you're doing with this?
So the console can actually slow down how fast your internet is coming across the browser.
So if you look up here, it's got some presets that you can do that kind of simulate some of the network conditions that you'll find on a phone. So we'll start with like a fast 3G. There's a reload.
Wait, was that Chrome or was that?
This is in Chrome. So you can see the images taking a little longer. It's typical on a 3G connection, right? Even on a slow 3G connection, if we hit load, okay, our pings were really long, but the HTML, as soon as it loads, you're not lost, right? Got all the styles, you got all the HTML you need. And assuming that next week I build in the whole progressive web app features, you're going to have this offline. So you could technically just go offline, reload. Kind of works right now, right, just from caching, but you'll be able to see it fully even when it's offline. So it's pretty fast. I have a buddy who just barely tried it out on this little demo site that he has, right? And he said his page was loading in 50 milliseconds because he has almost nothing on there. It's just a simple marketing site. And he's like, I've never seen anything like this before. And Netlify, if you use Netlify, their time to first byte, like their speed for time to first byte is insane. It's impossible. It's crazy.
So is that, okay, so the display looks quick, and then there's a lot of stuff lazy loading. Essentially lazy loading?
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it lots of stuff. Your app, the React app that you've built, all loads in one go. So if you have a React app that's huge at like 400 or 500 kilobytes, yeah, lazy loading, it's going to take 400 or 500 milliseconds to load, but people can't even think that fast, so you're still winning.
That sounds like better separation of data.
Yeah, it's all separation of concern. You've got static HTML files for SEO and for speed and for user experience. You've got the app bundle, which is just basically a create React app bundle, so you can do whatever the heck you want, and you're not limited by a framework like Next or Gatsby. And then you've got all the JSON files that are just raw data that your app uses to render all of the pages on your entire site. And that's really all there is to it. I want to show you guys how to do it. If you want to follow along right now, you can. It's really easy to get started, though. So you can use Yarn or NPM. I'm a Yarn guy. I am a Yarn guy. So let's see, there's an installation in here somewhere in the docs. All right, so you can do Yarn add React static, and this is technically for a migration. So we're going to take the easy route that I just created this morning. I want you to yarn global install, or yarn global add React static. And if you're in NPM, you would just do npm install global React static. Is everybody familiar with that? Does everybody know what a global node module does? Basically, it's like installing new commands into your bash. So you're going to be able to do this, just React static. So after you do this, it downloads and installs script you can use in your terminal now called React Static.
Quick question, have you used Linux? Have you used it often?
Linux?
Yeah, everybody mostly Mac.
I'm mostly Mac.
Okay. So I'm used to Linux, and I was just curious how close the setup and commands and whole files.
As long as you can run Node and npm in a terminal in a Unix-like environment, this will work on Windows if you download Node. So it should be about the same. Huh?
Yeah, I got it. It's a little different in Windows, like what you were describing.
Yeah.
But I was wondering how close.
Granted, I haven't tested this on anything but Mac. So if you have bugs, file an issue, and I'll fix it. So if you run React Static without anything, you'll see the commands that you can do. And they're really simple. Just create, start, and build. Obviously, we want to start with create. So React Static create, and it will ask you what you want to name this project. I'm on my desktop. I'm just going to call this test site. And then it says select a template below. Right now, there's only 3 basic, glamorous, and styled components. And if you're on the repo, you can actually go look at those examples in the examples folder. You can see exactly what they are. You can clone them, test them out. But I really like styled components, which is just a way, it's a React way to style your stuff. Anybody here used React components before? Or styled components? John?
Just referring to CSS being in JavaScript.
Yeah, CSS-in-JS library. If you did the basic, it would just be, link, rel, style sheet, href, CSS, really, really old school. But I'm going to do styled components. So it creates a new directory for you wherever you're at with the name of your site, and it starts installing all the dependencies for that example. And you can migrate existing projects over. The docs show you how to do that to some extent, but I think this is the way better way to get started. So it says to get started, we need to cd into our test site. So now we're in there, and there's not a whole lot in here. It doesn't take much to run React Static. It's very lean. There's a package.json with, in fact, let's just do this. So there's a package.json, which is really simple. It's got some dependencies. React Static is in there, and styled components, because this is the styled components example. I've got some linting in there that I hope helps people, and if it doesn't, whatever, you can take it out. And then serve, which is just helps us debug a production build locally. I'll show you how to do that too. So right out of the gate, you can just say yarn start or npm run start. And
That's what I got to.
public file's not there, typical.
You actually just have to name it, create a public folder.
Yeah, I gotta fix that. It should be transferred, but it's not.
I just saw an issue for it.
You could file a PR. How about that? Okay, yarn start.
You add yourself to Oktoberfest. I'm sure somebody will do it for you.
Yeah. Okay, so it says it's serving at localhost 3000. So I'm gonna go to localhost 3000. Welcome home. Yeah. This is a really simple site. It's got 3 links at the top: home, about, blog, which has some blog posts here. Click on one of them, takes you to the blog post. That's it. It's a really simple site, but you'd be surprised at how many things it already covers for most websites. So let's really quick, I want to look at the network tab again just to show you when you're not loading nozzle.io what React Static looks like. So I'm going to build it first. This will create a production build in the dist folder right here. And it actually bundles really fast. Exporting routes took 384 milliseconds. So it's pretty darn fast. And you'll see if you look at the file structure here, there's an index.html, there's an about, there's our main app.js file, here's the blog, and then here's all the posts. Each of them have an index.html file, and each one has a route data.json file. So it just creates a static site. And then if you want to test it out, you can say yarn serve, and that will take your local dist folder and serve it on your computer so you can see what it looks like before you push it into production. So the network tab looks like this. It loaded our HTML in 12 milliseconds. Our entire HTML file is 1.5 kilobytes. And then it loaded our app in 890 milliseconds. Let's see. I gotta expand this. Oh no. So it took a little bit to load it. That's actually local. That's gonna be better when you serve it up on a server. But our entire app, gzipped, is only 75 kilobytes. And that's a really lean marketing site, if you ask me. And then when you go to the About page, you'll notice that it requests the, let me make this bigger. You notice that it requests the About data, and the About page has no data. It doesn't need any, so it was just instantaneous. And then when we click on Blog, it requests the blog route data, which you'll notice is a little bit bigger. It's got all the posts in it, so that it needed to build this page. And then when you click on one of these posts, it'll load the route data for that post. That's just that individual one. Everybody following? Okay, into the code. So really quickly, the public folder is just like a straight across folder. Anything you put in there is going to be put into the root of your dist folder. So you can put static assets there, images, whatever. And then at the top here, there is a static.config.js, where this is where the magic happens for React Static. For this one particularly, all you need to do is export a default object that has a couple of things in it. This is all in the documentation. You can read about it. But really, the only ones you're going to be concerned about right now are get routes and HTML. So get routes is an asynchronous function that returns an array of paths. And a path looks like this. It's just, or routes. It's just an object that has a path key and the path that you want to export. And since there's only a couple of pages, I export. What's happening here is I'm going to this little website called JSON placeholder. I'm getting a bunch of posts from it. I'm using Axios to do this. You can use fetch. You could use whatever you want. But it's just a bunch of JSON, right? So this could be anywhere. This could be WordPress, Contentful. You're just going and getting your data, right? And I'm getting it back as posts right here. And then I'm returning an array with all of my routes. The first one is home. It's just a slash. There's nothing really, there's no data I need for my home page. So I just stop there. Same with about. There's nothing that I need there. But blog, I am going to need the post data that I got right here. So get props is also asynchronous. So if you wanted to do more asynchronous logic inside of get props, you could have done this in there. But we use the post data in a couple of places throughout our routes. So I just did it in the top level instead.
Is there any difference, like, when it reloads the data? Put it in there?
At build time, there's no difference. It's more performant. You'll get faster builds if you do it one time. Up there instead of on every single route. So if you have data you're using for multiple routes, fetch it at the beginning, use it in multiple places.
But that's just for the build process, not the actual.
Yeah. So, and in the development mode, in dev mode, get props is run. This is run on every refresh of the page. Get routes is, and this is run. Every get props for every route is run when you go to that page. So when you hit blog in dev mode, it's going to run this inline asynchronously, so you know you're getting the most up-to-date stuff if you wanted to put something there. And if you wanted to get really specific, there's a parameter in here called dev. So you could even say, you know, if we're not in dev, if we're building for production, go get it one time and use it everywhere in here. Otherwise, you can do the same thing and get props. Down here you can say if, you know, dev, and then you could say if we're not in dev, then I want you to use the one that I got up top here. But then if we are in dev, I want you to actually go get it again so you can get it live. You know, you can get very specific with how you want your data lifecycle to happen. I don't need to be getting the most freshest content when I'm like navigating around pages. If I want fresh content, you just hit reload, and it'll go and perform your get routes again. So you'll get fresh content.
Here's another question. When it preloads, like your posts, remind me, does that just keep that on the server and then your browser fetches it, or does it fetch it all? Does your browser fetch it all at one time? You know what I mean?
So
I'm just thinking, like, let's say your blog had just like tons of content,
Yep.
and it wasn't really smart to preload that every time for every user, to the site.
if your blog had tons of content and you didn't want to preload it,
Well, not preload it, but the user doesn't necessarily have to download all that content every time they visit the site.
no, and you just wouldn't use preload. So by default, React Static works on demand. It builds that data out into JSON files, and it only requests them when they're needed
Okay.
on the
that's
front end.
what I was-
And once it requests something, it's actually kept in a session cache. So if you go to that page again, it's already there. And even if multiple components request the same data at the same time, it still only does it one time. So it's very performant. You can do prefetching, which I'll tell you about later, where you can actually say, go preemptively get all of the data that I might need. And that can speed up your website significantly if you have a lot of data. But it can also be a burden on people's devices. If you're on your phone, you don't want to download the whole, dude, I just downloaded all of, reactjs.org onto my phone. I just, ran up like 5 megabytes or something like that. I didn't need all that. So it's 6s. You just got to decide what's best for your users.
So can you condition it? You said you can
Yes, you
condition
can.
it,
Yeah.
like on a per, if this device is mobile only.
Yeah, you could set that up. You could detect the navigator. And you could say, hey, if I'm on mobile, don't prefetch anything. If I'm on desktop, you can do that. I'll show you how you can do that.
Oh, do you do minification and obfuscation?
Yeah, at build time, everything gets minified and uglified, and it's very small. There's even tree shaking involved, so if you're not using some of the stuff you're importing, it will just scrap that. I'm pretty sure. You need to double check on the tree scraping. It should be working, and I haven't actually confirmed. But I mean, this site is 63 kilobytes, the whole thing, so I'm pretty sure it's working. So everything making sense on the get props. So, also with a path, if you don't want to do /blog post for every single thing, you can use children right here, and it will just nest all of these inside of blog. But the way I do it is children, you could go and create all of these by hand, Okay, here's a post, here's a post, here's a post. That's ghetto, right? You have all of your posts already. So you just map over them. Post.map. If you don't know what this is, you should really learn how to map in JavaScript. It's fantastic. But you just return an object right here where you take the post and you say, hey, here's the path post, and then you put the post ID in the path. And then get props just returns the post, because that's the only thing you need. So now you've got 100 children underneath blog. So it'll be blog/post/post ID 100 times for all of your stuff. You can even do pagination in here. You can do blog page 1, blog page 2, go through your data, loop through it, and see how many pages you need to make, and just make the appropriate amount of routes. Everybody good up to that point? Simple? Okay. I hope so.
Not simple.
You'll have to try it out. Once you try it out, you'll get it. So HTML, this is just saying this is where you define your root component. Because normally in a React app, all of this is sitting in an index.html, and you've got a div tag in there that's got ID root, right? Well, you get to control everything about the HTML that's exported. So you need to do this as well. And since this is set up for styled components, but really you wouldn't need any of that for that, and it could just be children. In fact, that's basically what a normal HTML component looks like for React Static. You're given these special HTML head and body components in props, and you get to use them down here, and you can customize them. You can put lang equals Spanish US if you really wanted to do that. So you can customize all the props on these, and you can put more stuff in here. But the way I set it up for styled components is you just need to extract out the styles at build time and put them in the head. That's all this is doing. And it's something you don't even need to worry about because it's just a template. But this is where you could put, custom meta tags that are going to be on every single page. This is where you could put raw CSS files. You can put, a title tag that's a default title tag. You get the idea. You guys know HTML. So that's what the site config looks like. Make sure that I didn't break anything here. So it's pretty simple.
Can you make like the title dynamic?
Yeah, I'm going to show you how to do that. So now into the meat of the app. By default, it looks for source index for the entry of your app. And it's going to look pretty similar to a Create React app. And there's some stuff in here to enable hot reloading, which makes it really nice. But you just import React and React DOM like you're used to. This app container for React Hot Loader. And then there's some special stuff to do just here for React Static. You want to import your app from somewhere, your main app component, but then you're going to export it again. This is for static rendering so that we can get to your app. You just export it in JSX version like that. And this comes in all of the templates. So again, something you probably don't need to touch. And then we detect if we are in dev mode, right? Or if we are in production and we're ready to mount. We're using React 16, which has this awesome rehydrate function right here, which is how it takes your app and invisibly attaches it onto the HTML that's already there. Really cool stuff. And then we render it right here. Render just calls this function. And then if we're in hot reloading, then anytime something changes, we're just, you guys can look at this stuff online for hot reloading. I think you guys know how that works. But that imports app, and this is really where the meat of the application starts. So up here, we're importing React like we do for every single freaking file. Does anyone else get sick of that? I do, but it's necessary, I guess. So this is cool too. So I told you we use React Router for React Static under the hood. And it's so ingrained with React Router that I just decided to just build it into React Static. So you don't have to import from React Router at all. You've got everything you need right here. You've got the router component, route, switch, redirect, link. All the normal stuff is going to be there for React Router. So then I'm doing some style components here. Don't need to worry about that too much. And then I'm importing each of my pages, which I just have in containers right here. So there's a home page, about page, and a blog page, and then there's a post that we'll get to right here. But here's some styles, yada, yada, yada. So right here, this is the app. The root is always the router. This router is the magic. You don't have to worry about static rendering, server rendering. You don't have to worry if it's live. Like the router takes care of everything for you automatically. And even if you're using Redux, you can use a custom history object. So you can use Redux with your static site. It's pretty sweet. And then here's my styles, and then I just have a little nav bar, which you guys can see in the blue. I'm using the link component from React Router. And then I have my content, which is a switch. So I'm saying if the path matches the root, load the home component. If it matches about, load the about component, blog. If you don't catch anything at all, redirect. You can do whatever you want. You could make a 404 page, catch anything. So let's look at the home component. Oh my goodness, indexing. Need to ignore. Home component, super simple. There's nothing to it. It's just like making a React app. And this is the about component. Also very, very simple. And here is the blog component where we get into a little bit deeper stuff. So let's go by line. React, whatever. React static. I'm importing the React router stuff. If you see switch, route, and link, nothing different here. Get route props is the other half of the magic of React static. So this this is just an individual post right here, but get route props is an HOC. It's a higher order component. Does anyone not know what a higher order component is? So it's just a function where you pass it a component that you have, and it will take that component and wrap it up in another one and send it back to you. It just enhances a component, right? So in this case, I want you to think of it more like this. This is our blog component right here. And we're just making a normal blog component and passing it into this higher order component. That's how you use higher order components. Just functions.
I don't know if I would actually ever do this, but could you do unit testing on the get route props component? Or,
Yes, you can.
I know with Redux you have to pretty much split it. Like it's just not easy to test.
Yeah, like in this case, it would be easy just to do export const blog.
Yeah.
And you could test blog individually and you know, just pass it your own matching posts. And then right here, export default get route props blog. You would need a lifecycle tester, so you'd want like Enzyme or something like that.
Yeah.
But it is possible. I
But
wouldn't.
you would do it that way if you were to do it.
I would probably test blog. I wouldn't be worried about testing get route props. If there's a problem with that, it's React Static's problem, not yours, right? So I would just write an integration test for blog. I wouldn't worry about like unit testing get route props or anything like that. So blog is pretty simple. I'm expecting it to give me a prop that has posts, all of the posts in it. And then if it's an exact match on React Router, this is just React Router stuff, then I'm going to render this stuff right here. So if you go to the blog, it says it's blog time. And then I say all posts. And then I take those posts that I just magically appear there and I map over them and just create a list. Each one with a link going to blog post with the post ID. And then I stick the post title in it right there. Everyone following? Okay. And the way that posts get there is from get route props. That's how you know posts are going to be there, because in our config, in our static config, oh my goodness, static config, in blog, get props returned an object with posts, right? Anything in that object is going to become a prop right here. That's all it is. You can use get route props anywhere you want to get whatever the props were that you returned on that route. So get route props here is just going to ensure that those posts that we got at build time are ready inside of our component.
Looks easier than Angular.
What?
It looks easier than Angular.
Oh yeah.
I got a side question, just because I'm really new to React.
Okay.
Are these props, can I think of them the same as this dot props? If I was just writing vanilla React?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This is a functional component. So if it was a class component, you know, and you were inside of like your render method,
Yeah.
right? It was like class blog extends React component, and you're inside of here. You know, it would just be this dot props, and you could actually destructure out of there. So you can say const match posts equals this props. Why am I getting barked at? Anyways, yeah. It's just a different flavor of a component. This is a functional component where your props are given to you as just a parameter. If you needed state or something like that, or lifecycle methods, you could use an actual class component. So same diff. They're just props, and they're there regardless. And they're guaranteed to be there before the component renders. So you don't have to worry about if posts are ready or not. They're just going to be there. I went into a lot of work to make that happen. Okay, so if it doesn't match the exact route for blog, then it looks to see if we're at post ID. So if you click on one of these, I'm linking to blog post ID, which in this case I clicked on 1, so it went to this /1, and so it matched this down here, post and then post ID, and then I just send it off to the post component, which is right here. Post component. So this is the same thing. right here, it's just to separate this out so it doesn't look as confusing. I'll just do this. Const post. There's our component. This dot props has post prop. So post is a prop, and we know that because, good golly, we know that because in our get props we returned post. For individual posts, we returned a post prop. So it's right there, and we can use it post title, post body, and that's all it's doing. We're just rendering a link back to the blog with the title and the body. And to make sure that post is there in our component, we say get route props. And it's going to say, oh, go get me all of the props that you provided for this route right here. And then stick them right there. It's really simple. Does anybody have any questions so far?
So this is just me wondering why the linter isn't yelling at me on the static.config. Data, let's see, like on line 18.
18?
Yeah, like a post variable. Posts.
Yeah.
Where is that coming from?
Right here.
I know it's related to that, but
Okay, so this is the same. This is
JavaScript that I don't understand.
This is the same
what's
as
going on here.
data, and then you say const posts equals, or you destructure it out of there.
Structure
It's posts equals
Oh.
data.
it. I didn't know you could do structure like that.
Yeah, so technically you can do, or no, it would be, really it would look like this. This is the response, and the response object has data, right? And then const
Posts.
posts equals the data. Like that's very
I didn't
tedious
know
to
you could do
write.
that.
So you can just say, hey, destructure once using data, and then destructure again using posts. So, and that's the same as creating the posts variable, which you use right here. Sorry that wasn't clear, but really cool shortcut. Actually,
Well,
it was
and
Jason
your-
that taught
your
me
thing
that one.
doesn't have the brackets around the posts either.
What?
So you don't need brackets around posts there either.
Around here? Right here? Yeah, you do.
Because it doesn't have that on the template on the box. It didn't have that just now. 2 minutes ago.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
the same thing?
Oh, I guess this is the res, and then the data is the posts. Yeah, the data is the posts. Sorry. I was thinking of my own nozzle site that uses contentful. My apologies. You don't need that. The result is an object that has data, which is the posts. So much simpler than I was making it look. That's all you need to do. Sorry, John. Still, Jason, thank you for showing me that like a year ago. And I was like, what? That's so stupid. Why would I ever do that? And Jason's like, you troglodyte. Okay, where were we? What were we talking about? Oh yeah, that's it. That's the entire website.
That's too simple.
It is simple, isn't it? Now, the one thing that I'm going to try and draw the sting here is someone's probably going to say, well, I'm defining my routes twice, right?
That's honestly what I was thinking.
I knew it, right? You're like, dude, I'm defining my routes once in get routes, and then I'm doing it again in my app. And you know what? It's just something you got to live with.
You can find a way to crawl the tree like we were talking about.
No, like crawling the React tree is a dangerous game, and I've
Yeah.
tried it before. And some of these other libraries that you trust every day are doing some big hacks to do stuff. Like, you know, those little custom lifecycle methods of like, for like Apollo, and, you know, they're doing some funky shiz there. Crawling the React tree, running all those little custom lifecycle methods. Like, it's scary. I was doing it at the very beginning, and it was scary. So I opted for stability. And yeah, you feel like you're repeating yourself a little bit, but I mean, you can map over stuff. You know, the majority of sites aren't going to have more than like 10 of these entries unless you got a ton of pages, you know.
Right.
And in that case, it's not that bad. Like you just come in here to app and you just have a bunch of the pages right here. You could probably write something for your own implementation where you just define your routes in one file and it produces all of these route components and the routes for your static config. You could probably do that. And in fact, you should probably look for a way to do that if it bothers you.
Could you do something dynamic if you had, say, WordPress as your backend where you can pull all those pages?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just
Yeah, we do it. We do it at Nozzle. So like we have some pages that aren't in Contentful, but then we have others where I'm just like, I make a pages object and I just like, or like an array of pages that came from WordPress. So like I'd go get Contentful pages right here, you know, and then I just pop them in right there. That's all I do.
What about dynamically setting the title, page title?
Dynamically setting the page title.
Stuff.
So dynamically setting the page title, say like for the post. I don't know if you've ever heard of React Helmet, but React Helmet was made by the NFL. Well, that's why they call it React Helmet. But I proxy that, and it's just called head in React Static. Under the hood, it's React Helmet. So what you do if you want to put something in the head, you just do head, and then right here you can do title, you know. And in this case, you could do the post title. And then if you wanted, you know, the name of your site or something like that. And then that, when you do post, let's see, I got a yarn build, yarn serve. I should just be in dev mode, but it's so cool to see the built product. It's so fast. So yeah, so now when you go to post one, it changed already. So just when you hit that page, it just modifies the head. It's really cool.
Yeah, it works so fast.
Cool.
That way,
That's what I want. I want you to be like, what? Are you serious? And how easy was that? Like, I don't think getting up and going with any other static site generator looks like this. I know because I've tried all of them. And, like, they're not this friendly. So, I mean, that's it. This is a really simple app. You can do custom Babel stuff if you want. Let me show you some stuff from the docs really quick so you know maybe what's possible that I didn't show you.
I kind of just sort of a random question. So,
Okay.
and this is because I'm coming from like pre-React days and whatnot, but like when you were making a static site back then, there was no way to change, unless you had a server changing your file extensions, there was no way to do it. So how are you doing it with this static site generator stuff?
Well, Netlify that I hosted on, they have a little magic checkbox that says prettify your routes. So it turns .html into nothing. Yeah, and that's a server thing. There's a lot of things that you're gonna implement on your server. That's why I suggest Netlify. Like they're built for static sites, and they're basically free. So I don't know why you wouldn't use Netlify. They use AWS under the hood for all their stuff. So when you push to Netlify, you're getting like a worldwide CDN for all of your stuff. It's fantastic.
If you need more customization, you can always use like CloudFront on it.
Yeah.
And you can use their Lambda Edge.
Mm-hmm.
To customize it.
Yeah. Netlify uses CloudFront itself, and you can use your own. It's really easy. So let's see, making sure I didn't forget about anything. Oh, preloading. Let me show you preloading. This is awesome. So the CLI, we went over that. Configuration, you know get routes now. Congratulations, you passed the test. Site root is needed because it's good SEO to have absolute URLs and a sitemap.xml for Google to crawl. If you just put in your root of your site, wherever it is, I do all that for you automatically. You're like an SEO pro, and you didn't have to do anything. Well, you did. You had to put your site in a string in your config. So, pretty tough. And then here's the HTML thing. Yeah, I went over that with you guys. Webpack. So I straight up ripped off Gatsby on this one because they were geniuses. They use something called Webpack Configurator. So if you want to use a custom Webpack importer or loader or whatever, you can just use this Webpack function right here. It gives you the current Webpack configuration, and you get to use Webpack configurator to add loaders with their cool API that they have. It's awesome. You can make custom loaders, just don't change any of the entry stuff. You can easily break React static. But if you're doing Webpack stuff, you're advanced anyway, so go for it.
What's
Webpack configurator. Yeah, same one Gatsby uses. And then the entry file, I told you, defaults to source index.js. You can change it if you want. I don't know why you would. Pre-render meta, this is just like before we render the page into HTML, you can do stuff with JSX. So if you wanted to crawl the React tree, you could do it right here and do whatever you want. I don't know. And then in post-render meta is after it's been put out to HTML, you get the static HTML as a string, and you can return meta from both of these functions, and then that meta is available in your HTML custom component. So you can do whatever you want. In fact, Glamorous uses this right here to extract the styles out and put them into the HTML. It's really easy. Bundle Analyzer, this is awesome. In fact, I'm just going to do it right now. So if you come to your config and you turn on the Bundle Analyzer, and then you build, bic, nope. Sorry, I'm getting used to this keyboard. It's only been a week. It's only been a week with this keyboard. I keep playing random songs too and skipping the song because apparently when I hit the Y key with my finger, when I type Y, my other fingers hit the play pause buttons. Like I had no idea. It just happened. So when you build with the bundle analyzer on, you get the bundle analyzer. You get to see, so like the entire app right here, gzipped is 74 kilobytes. Here's all my node modules. There's our app, our actual app. But here's React DOM, style components, React Helmet, Axios, runtime index, route. There's React router. So, and you can analyze, oh, hey, what the freak is, giving my site 200 kilobytes of size when I don't need it. So you can run the bundle analyzer and figure it out.
Can you show us how to do like a Sass loader on that one?
A Sass loader? I can't show you how to do that right now. I haven't used Sass in probably like a year.
No worries.
So if you give me like 48 hours, I can have an example up on how to use Sass.
No, that's fine. I was just...
Okay.
You've got 48 hours.
That's super new, but
Yeah.
You just install the Sass loader in Webpack.
Yep. Like this example folder up here, guys, I want to grow this. Like I want to have like 50 examples in here. One with Redux, one with MobX, even though I hate it. One with like whatever you want, okay? But that's the entire config object that you can do in static config. There's the router, you already saw that. There's how to use it. Oh, this is cool. If you want to know if the router is loading something, you can subscribe to it, and it will run this function every time it changes. And I use that on Nozzle to do the little, the little bar at the top that's like loading, done. The little white skinny thing at the top of sites. Google does it all the time. I wonder if it's, what's the site that has that?
That's a webpage thing, or what?
It's called In Progress is the one that I use. You guys have probably seen it in tons of websites. But In Progress looks like this. So see that little thing at the top?
That's part of the webpage.
Yeah, start, set, increment, done. So I use the router right here to do end progress. So if I am loading something, I show a little progress bar, which never happens because everything's instantaneous. So it's kind of redundant. I don't know what the.
just in case you want to know.
I don't know what the freak's happening here. That's weird. Anyways, it just says that it exports all the other stuff from React Router. There's the get route props that you use to get your route props. And this shows you how to use it in the static config and in an app. There's the head that you asked about, John, where's John? Oh, that changes stuff, so that's how to use head. This is the prefetch component. Dude, this is so cool. So you can just wrap all of your links in prefetch if you want. And prefetch just takes a path, any path to your local site, right? And if the prefetch component renders, it's going to go get all of the JSON that's needed for that site right then and there. So you know that any link that they could click on the page has already been preloaded. And so that way, instead of loading the whole site, you're just loading the available options for them to click on. How cool is that? And if you want to get even more specific, you can use the lowercase version of prefetch, which is just a function, and you can just manually prefetch stuff if you wanted. You can prefetch it, and you can even use the data that comes from it, like the props that would be on that path that you want to prefetch. And then there's some tips and tricks, which I basically just turned into examples, and that's it. That's React Static. Ask questions.
You spend 10% of your workday coding sites and the other 90% figuring out how to do it.
So I'm actually really lucky that my job has given me like a really big opportunity to write open source. Nothing on front end is proprietary anyway. If you write something cool, you got to show it to people on the internet so anybody can go on and just look at what you've done. So I don't see a big benefit in writing these cool libraries just for Nozzle. Like if I need to write something for Nozzle and I think the open source community would benefit from it, I write it. And we needed to really update our Nozzle.io site, and I was sick of using crappy static site generators and stuff. So I wrote this, and it's helping Nozzle out now. Like, Nozzle loads so freaking fast now. I'm so happy that it loads this fast and that it's just ready to go. And it's a breeze to update. Like, my CEO and my backend guy be like, dude, we need to update this thing on the marketing site. And be like, no, just leave me alone. I don't want to go in there. It's not React. It's not what I'm comfortable with. It's Hugo or HTML or Metalsmith or some stupid handlebar syntax, right? It's not React. I need React. If it's not React, then I'm out. I gotta be using the latest and greatest. This is so front end talk right now. It's so hipster. But it's just like, well, I'm not using that if it doesn't use React. But it's true. Like, you don't want to do stuff unless it's fun and easy to maintain. So that's the reason I built it. I was just tired of it, and it's so much better now. Like, we had 20 bugs when I launched this site earlier today. It would have taken me 2 days to fix those bugs with our old site. It took me 20 minutes with the new one. Like, I knew exactly where to go, exactly what to do. It's just React, so you can reuse all of your knowledge that you've learned everywhere else to build your static site.
So how new is this?
I literally launched React Static 6 hours ago. I probably spammed everybody with links on Utah.js, or if you're a part of React Static, you probably got hit up like 2 or 3 times. But like, if you think it's cool, you should go and start it on GitHub. That'd really make me happy.
Can you tell if any of your stuff, how many people are using it?
I've shown it to a few people. When I got the library name, it was at 2K downloads per month. Now it's at 3K. I've only shown it to like 20 people before today. So I've got the people I've shown it to, they're already using it. One guy I know, and I really respect from...
I'm not.
What?
I'm not using
No, you're not using it. It's because you're in the minority. Timber.io, my friend Zach runs this site, and he's probably looking to migrate from Next into React Static for Timber. But it's going to be faster than that, I can guarantee you. And it's going to be easier to manage too.
And as a tender PHP guy, I never thought I'd see web pages as JS. I would have thought that would be.
And when I saw PHP, I thought I never wanted to see a website as a PHP file again. Especially WordPress. I hate WordPress now. The goal, right, Jason, would be to kill WordPress. Yeah. We talk about this all the time. Anyways. Because WordPress is terrible. No, but really, it's a cool solution now because you can set up Contentful, which is basically WordPress without a front end. You can give it to your customers or marketing team, whatever, and they're like, oh, look, I'm writing blog posts in this WYSIWYG editor. And then when
the API compared to the WordPress REST API?
oh, it's much simpler, much better, yeah. And then what's cool is we have webhooks set up so that anytime, you asked, you're like, oh, but what about keeping it fresh data? Because, yeah, you have to build the site every time that you want to add something new. So we have a webhook set up in Contentful that anytime something changes in Contentful, it pings Netlify, and Netlify builds a new version of it. All in their little CI, I don't have to touch it. So if I go and edit a post right now, I just have to wait 60 seconds and it'll be there. Pushed out to the CDN, CloudFront, the whole world. 60 seconds. Yeah. Any other questions?
You said you were going to show us how to get it up on Netlify, or did you not say that?
I could show you Netlify.
For some reason I thought you said you were going to go over that page now.
Wow, I'm almost out of battery. So Netlify is really cool.
It's super simple.
It really is. So like here's a thanks. I'll just sit right here. Anywhere else? We're good. Thank you. So there's a Netlify CLI that you can use. It's basically just like log in and then you just say Netlify go, like Netlify push. And it takes wherever you are, zips it up and pushes it up to a website. And you're done. And then if you don't want to do that, you can hook it up to GitHub. So I'm actually going to, whoa. You guys don't want to see that. So here's all my Netlify sites that I have. It shows up in here after you push it, but nozzle.io is linked to, let's see, site settings. It's linked to, where is it? The Git site name, nozzle, build and deploy, right here. So it's linked up to a repository that for some reason doesn't say nozzle, but I don't know why. It's hooked up to the master branch, and whenever I push new code to master on GitHub, if you're not using GitHub, you should be. So this is what you should be doing.
It also works with Bitbucket.
Yeah, it works with Bitbucket and a couple of other GitLab, Git client stuff. But every time it pushes to master, it runs this yarn build. Same thing we do locally, yarn build. And then it just says, oh, and then tell me what directory it's going to be in. And I just say it's going to be in dist, because that's where it outputs to. So anytime something changes in GitHub, it rebuilds with the new changes. Anytime something changes in Contentful, it triggers a rebuild with the latest master of GitHub. So it's all automatic. We're even going to set it up at Nozzle so that when you publish a new post, it's going to ping our Slack channel with a preview. And we're going to be able to go preview the post, make sure it all looks good, and then we're going to hit a button, and it's going to launch that post. It's going to rebuild the site for real. It's going to like chatbot integration. It's going to be sick.
You're not making it too easy to work yourself out of a job or take
No, I don't care about that. I'm just here to have fun.
I got a question on Netlify. For its published directory, does it automatically look for index and then a bunch of extensions, or
I don't know. I mean, wherever you upload to Netlify in the root, you're going to want an index.html file. Netlify, I know automatically, it's going to look for index.html, just like every other server on the planet. And then it'll automatically handle, if you have a 404.html, it'll use that as the 404 page. It defaults to rewriting your URLs to get rid of the .html suffixes. No, it wouldn't work with that. It's got to be static.
It's only
.html.
static. They only do static sites.
Yep.
Like you couldn't do an Express server.
No.
No.
That's why it's beautiful. The most beautiful part about it, though, I want to show you this. Except way more fun. Because I'm not a back-end developer, so Heroku's kind of just like, oh, look, I'm doing things on the server, and I don't know what this does, but oh, $10, never mind. I don't want to do that. But look at the pricing for Netlify. Personal is free, and It includes personal or commercial projects, private or public repositories, HTTPS for custom domains, continuous deployment, community support. There's nothing on here about limits or bandwidth or size of your project, although I'm sure they're there. Like, they don't say anything.
They changed that.
Huh?
They added a bunch of stuff recently.
Yeah, they added form handling and some services that you can use, which is split testing is really cool.
Is that all we see in the
Split testing's bad.
Oh, form handling, like posting
Yeah.
and emailing form.
Yeah, like they have a form service where you can build forms and embed it. It's a lot like, what is it? Woofu, something like that.
Split
Yeah.
testing, that's cool.
And if you're building an open source project, you can get a pro plan for free. So if you're like hosting an open source project on GitHub or something like that.
Do you host your Nozzle app on this?
Yeah, Nozzle app is on
So
personal
you
free.
build locally and then push. I guess it builds for you. Never mind.
Yeah, it's all hooked up to our private GitHub repo. I push to the Nozzle private GitHub repo and it builds on Netlify. Contentful. Also, by the way, if you look at Contentful, I don't know how Contentful is going to feel about this, especially if they like watch this video. But if you go to Contentful pricing, so the main way that Contentful prices you is you get 3 spaces, whatever, you'll probably just need one. 10,000 records. I don't know of a lot of people that can write 1,000 blog posts. So 5 users, which probably just going to need one. And then down, let's see, free, where do they do? Right here. API calls and bandwidth. So on the developer edition, you get 1 million API calls. Now that might not be a whole lot if you're running an Express server and every time you hit a page, it's going and requesting the data live, right? That can add up pretty quick if you have 50,000 users or 100,000 users, right? But when you're building a static site, that basically means, I mean, you can download an entire Contentful site with 1 API call. So that basically means you have 1 million builds every month. So yeah, and are you going to build your website 1 million times in a month? Seriously, I rebuilt Nozzle today 50 times, and I was pushing it. So, like, basically we have free WordPress, but with React and way better and not WordPress. So, yeah, Netlify and Contentful match made in heaven with React Static.
When they say logo attribution, that has to go on your front end app.
Where's the logo attribution? Oh yeah, Contentful logo attribution. Yeah, required. If you're making a big enough splash for them to notice, then sure, we'll bump it up and do $249 a month, or we'll move to Prismic, or I'll use what is this Netlify CMS. So Netlify themselves, they actually have a CMS, content management system, that is powered by freaking GitHub. So sweet.
Also, if you're crafty, you can use Trello.
Yeah.
You can use Google Sheets.
You could
or
write
whatever
your-
you store data in.
You can write your blog posts in Markdown locally. You don't even have to use the CMS. You can just write them in Markdown with your site, which is how React JS does it. They just have a folder in their repo that's got all the Markdown files. You use front matter for metadata and titles. You could just use JSON. Like, you could do it however you want. Netlify CMS gives you like the whole WordPressy experience, but when you hit save on a post, it creates a pull request to your repo with the new file. And then when you hit publish on a post, it merges it into master. It's pretty freaking awesome. So Netlify, they're pretty awesome. Anyways, that's it.
I barely understand React, and I'm amazed at that.
I'm gonna stop the video now. We can keep going, but I just don't want to run it too long. So thank you, people, for watching the video.